How's everybody feeling? Glad to be here. Glad to have made it. Can I just see where my PSAC activists are? Raise your hand. Oh yeah. All right. All right. Feel the love. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, you know what? As Brother Irwin just said, we switched the agenda around. Normally, when this happens, you know, people say, well, you get up there and do maybe a song and dance. I dance, I also sing, but I won't dance for you today. You know what? I feel like doing a little bit of a song. You know, there's a good tradition in the labor movement too. We sing, you know, and everything. When I was growing up, there was a song that I was really fond of. And I'm just going to sing a few lines because it's very apropos today with what's going on and what we're faced with. And after that, I'll ask a few people, you know, if you recognize it, some trivia on it as well. All right, so here goes. It's people moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of their skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Vote for me and I'll set you free. Rap on, brother, rap on. You know the only person talking about love thy brother is the preacher. And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teachers. Yeah, you know what? Segregation, determination, demonstration, integration, aggravation, humiliation, obligation to our nation, ball of confusion. That's what the world is today. Hey, hey. Well, that's just a little extract from a song that was sung by whom? Does anybody recognize the group? Who sang that song? Trivia.
Temptations.
Right on, Temptations. Take me back to my youth, exactly. And that was written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong. And when I was growing up, the Sound of Soul, WWRL in New York City, that song played so often. We danced to it and we sang it because it was the song of protest. It really was. In the establishment radio stations, it didn't play that much. But in the black community, it played a lot, and we really identified with it. So in 1970, that song played, 42 years ago. And you know what? Times haven't changed much, have they? Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. So ball of confusion indeed. However, there is less confusion today than there was on Tuesday. All right? And let's go back to Tuesday. Because you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Those lines and the voter suppression, you'd think that we'd be past these tactics. And they were there. But you know what? The sisters and the brothers, they stood in line and they said, if we have to be here till tomorrow morning, we are going to stay here and we're going to cast our vote and we're going to make ourselves loud and proud. And I salute all of our sisters and brothers who did that. And in my heart of hearts, I knew that Tuesday would be a good day. So can I get a yes, he can?
Yes, he can.
I said, can I get a yes, he can?
Yes, he can.
I said, I want to hear you. Can I get a yes, he can?
Yes, he can.
Amen. All right. And if Barack Hussein Obama can, then so can we. You know, and so did we. We were all victorious earlier this week, every member of every equity group. Anyone who looked at the crowds assembled to cheer President Obama and the crowds assembled to cheer conservative Republican Mitt Romney would see that America is being divided between those who believe in equity and progress and those who believe in privilege, too often class and racist-based privileged, as well as maintaining the status quo. Throughout the Obama campaign, it was easy to find most, if not all, equity groups represented. I mean, you just had to look at the Romney campaign, and it was easy to find that most equity groups were either absent or very much underrepresented. The reason I bring up the American election is because Obama did unite communities of color, and especially the African American community like no other leader before. That in this past election, for example, 95% almost of the African American community voted for Barack Hussein Obama has less to do with affinity of color than the color of affinity. We have been inspired because of his leadership, and even if we were disappointed, and we were, by some of the issues on which he did not or could not deliver, we were faced with a choice that was really no choice. Our embrace of Obama was more due to our bond with him, as we identified so viscerally with his experience of discrimination. The pain, the emotional and intellectual wringer that he as a leader was going through, I could not help feeling for him. For example, as he had to claim that Romney was being untruthful, was not being truthful. That's what the word that he kept using. Yes, he was kowtowing to that sickening double standard of having to remain personally as truthful as possible, lest he condescendingly, patronizingly, and prejudicially be accused of being a liar. To be clear, President Obama did not immediately unite us at first. In early 2008, I remember phoning people in Florida, in the African American community, to get them to vote for him when he was a candidate in the primaries, with the main reaction being, Barack, who? He ain't even one of us. The brother was faced with a long road to hoe. Yet as he ran and demonstrated talent to spare, people began to unite as he earned our admiration and trust. The African American community and the other equity groups did indeed unite in 2008 to elect Barack Hussein Obama. However, the early road was a rocky one, as equity met austerity, not to mention the Tea Party. The repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was perhaps not good enough. And certainly more than halfway through his mandate, Obama was losing the support of gay and lesbian communities as well as others. But the brother did adapt. In the latter part of his mandate, his speech on the right of same-sex couples to marry, especially in the face of strong opposition from African American evangelicals, was a brilliant example of leadership. Stop playing to the middle. Take a position. Damn the torpedoes. Catch me if you can. That's what we call leadership. Leadership is without a doubt a learning experience. Barack Hussein Obama has learned, as we all have. We are all leaders here, faced with immense challenges presented to us by the corporate conservative establishment. That establishment has been very successful in dividing our society into two solitudes. Two solitudes in this society, one where equity wins, the other where equity loses. Which brings me to the crux of my message. The question before us is equity before austerity. Logical analysis leads us to ask, does austerity come before equity? This is the equation that the corporate conservatives present as a sine qua non condition of economic measures, such as those imposed by the IMF, measures which are imposed to redress and correct the bankrupting of society caused by corporate greed. So in rewarding corporate greed, the corporate conservative establishment cuts public services, which serve the public interest. Public service cuts undercut the progress that society must make to adequately and successfully implement equity. We cannot continue allowing these corporate conservatives to keep imposing their austerity agenda. Austerity favors the rich. It impoverishes mainstream society. Austerity imposes economic servitude and indebtedness, which puts the people at the mercy of trickle-down charity. Austerity reduces the hope of implementing equity. I remember back in the 1960s when there were debates about wheelchair access. Many real estate developers and landlords in New York City were vociferous, loudly claiming that they could not afford building ramps and modifying structures would bankrupt them. Yet society, through government, in the public interest, held firm. No one went bankrupt. Yes, there were costs, but today we no longer have the debate. Access is a right, but like most rights, if we don't defend them, we will lose them. So if the question before us is equity before austerity, I say that equity has nothing to do and never should be a condition of economics. Equity cannot be part of an economic equation. That puts us in a trap set by the corporate conservative establishment. Our motto, our manifesto, our credo should be equity unconditionally. This past Tuesday evening, we experienced victory. In the crowds assembled to celebrate victory, we saw equity. Equity and progress triumphed this week against a terrible conservative onslaught. And our response to the corporate conservatives in all matters concerning equity must be equity unconditionally. Unconditionally shall we defend what we have gained. Unconditionally shall we promote what needs to be done. Our foundation is diversity. Through our differences, we find our identity. We are one, united in defending, promoting, and fighting for equity unconditionally. As we are challenged, shall we knock down the barriers and obstacles that will fall asunder as long as we march forward united. As we are challenged by corporate conservative economic and political distractions and confusion. Shall we remain true to our cause to promote and defend and achieve what Martin Luther King saw on the Great March Forward? As we are challenged, shall we overcome each and every day whatever the corporate conservatives shall send our way? In solidarity, standing in diversity, in progress and in liberty, shall we defend and promote equity unconditionally, celebrating our unassailable equality. Thank you, sisters and brothers. Merci beaucoup.